Greetings. This is Robert Muhammad with National Network View. On tonight's show, NNV contributor Charles Muhammad will give us tips on how to eat to live and on the types of fish that we should not consume. But before we delve into the top news, let us recap the current events we've covered on this week. On yesterday, NNV reporter Nina Shabazz discovered our brothers and sisters in the Muslim Ummah globally that are dealing with difficult situations.
What is the general mood of the people that he has encountered there?
Well, the general mood, from what I had a discussion with him, people are hurting. People are, they are walking in a little bit more fear. As with the previous administration, they a lot of the hope that they had, during President Obama's tenure was completely lost during the previous administration. I mean, we see the lines, we see that, and this is, we saw lines like this here in America. And
Right.
Can you imagine, essentially being cut off from all other countries being able to trade with you, and that
Right.
essentially cripples your community. And so the mood is somber. The mood is, they're desperate. But now I think with this new administration, there's a little glimmer of hope that things may return, and Americans can travel there a little bit more. And so that's the hope.
Mr. Aldo Dokun, CEO and founder of World Apparel Company, discussed his clothing line that is providing youth opportunities and raising money to support worthy causes and world missions.
How did we show? What's an example of how we show that it doesn't take an enormous amount of money or sponsorships to help to bring a program to life, to put on an event, and also give back to the community as well?
Yeah, I want to say the best way we showed it was being transparent, and actually starting. That would be my answer, especially for anyone that is young and feel like they don't have the resources to do it. Just start with what you have. I honestly believe that God gives us everything that we need. So where you at right now, God is giving you everything that you need, and you should be able to produce with that, because it's the fruits that it's the seeds that He's giving you, and He wants you to produce fruit with it. So I believe we did a real good job of doing that early on. Yeah, it's going to take sacrifice. It's not going to be looked as the coolest thing at the time, because the cool way to do it is wait till you become a millionaire or make thousands of dollars, then start giving to the needy and the community. But we took a different route. We said, why does that have to be the norm? Why can't we just do it the other way? And we did. And we've been very successful with it. And I love it every day. I think about it every day, what we do, and I love it.
A portion of the proceeds from the sales of World Apparel clothing line go to help support charities and to outreach efforts, helping those who are most in need.
What portion of these proceeds from the sales of our clothing line go to help support charities? And give us a few examples of charities that we've helped in our community. Yeah,
absolutely. So 100%, me, myself, the team, Tariq, Mr. A. Chambers, none of us have pocketed a dime from anything that we've sold, or made, or was given to us by charity from another, org that wanted to help, or another business that wanted to help. None of it has been pocketed. We don't believe in that. This is 100% nonprofit. I don't pay myself. I work a 9 to 5. Sorry, that's how I pay myself. But as far as the projects that we've done, so I'll start from the beginning. First one was Promise House Orphanage, Dallas, Texas. We raised a couple $100, not much, not many. I think it was $500. That's what we raised probably, and we spent $300 of it on toys and coloring books and video games for the kids that Christmas. And we gave the Promise House a check of $200 for them to purchase, any type of miscellaneous things that they needed for the kids.
Tony Muhammad discussed the history of colonialism in Myanmar, the country formerly known as Burma.
The ousted leader, where is she? Has she fled the country?
According to the reports, they are all on house arrest, but there are no secret court that we know of in regards to their trial. According to the BBC, Ms. Kia originally faced 2 charges of illegally importing radio and communication devices, violating Myanmar's emergency COVID-19 laws. But a further 2 charges were later added. She was accused of using illegal communication equipment and causing fear and alarm, violating the National Disaster Act. That's according to the military. So as to that, we could just say that that was the justification. As to what exactly is really taking place,
right.
I think time will tell exactly what exactly is taking place.
Martin Bay and Kiara Adams with Compton Community Garden showed how the community garden is positively impacting and strengthening the community.
Okay. I wanted to know how long has the community garden been operating?
So the community garden has been operating since 2013.
It started with Dr. Ross, our mentor that you've seen in the previous video. He worked with this organization to actually create the space here, along with about 14 other community gardens in Los Angeles. And the goal with creating Compton Community Garden was actually to combat obesity and food insecurity in our neighborhoods. And from there, he partnered with at-risk youth to get them involved and give them something productive to do in the community. Yeah. And that's when our organization, Holistic Divine Innovations, came on board to actually help sustain the place and add organization and structure to what you guys all see now as the garden.
Yeah.
Brother Abdul Malik Muhammad, top fisherman in the Nation of Islam, discussed the death of DMX and others not long after receiving the COVID-19 vaccine and how people can rise above drug addiction with prayer and fasting.
How did you make it out? Was it, in fact, the minister who encouraged you or inspired you to get out of the drug trap?
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the reason I got out of drugs, gang banging, womanizing, and everything that the Black community was doing. I was a part of that. It was a fun thing, but the Minister Farrakhan's word went out and did not come back void when it took place. And Brother Warren 2X at that time's heart, who I'm now, Abdul Malik. Minister Farrakhan is the only solution. He showed me the power of prayer and fasting. And if the people are not making 5 prayers a day and fasting, you need to rush yourself to the hospital. The hospital is prayer and fasting, the foundation to success. And you should, and if I can give them the number to it, they could definitely have that too. But they need to rush to the hospital. If you're not making 5 prayers a day and doing some type of fasting with all these chemicals in the food that we're taking, you better come on with it and come up out of that situation. It helped me.
Sister Charlene Muhammad updated us on her Final Call News article on blood clots and the suspension of the COVID vaccines.
Can you speak on the significance of blood clots or just the significance of this particular side effect in relationship to the vaccine?
Sure. This side effect, the one that has been reported for AstraZeneca, which is also the same side effect that's being reported for Johnson & Johnson, causes blood drainage from the brain. And there's also reports that it causes clotting in the abdomen. And at least 18 of AstraZeneca's reporting, 18 people have died. That's as of last week. We don't know what the numbers are today, but it's very serious. Blood clotting is serious, but this is drainage from the brain. There have been reports of people who have experienced clotting saying they have excruciating headaches, like beyond migraine headaches. So it's deadly. It can be very deadly.
Dr. Akili discussed the coronavirus variants and the wave of new COVID cases.
On average, about 63,000 COVID cases are reported per day, and there have been 5,000 hospital admissions per day in the last 7 days. Are we in the midst of a fourth wave?
Based on what I'm seeing, I would say yes. The numbers are like all of us are saying, that they're starting to rise again, and it seems like each time these governors or these regulators decide to open back up cities and states, there is a rise seemingly in conjunction with that opening. And so because of the effect of these variants and the way that they are supposedly bringing in higher rates of disease, more serious disease, and increased rates of disease, then I think many healthcare workers especially are considering this another wave. I would, it's kind of difficult for me to agree with 4, because it seems to me like there's been more than that, but that's right. That's the typical number that we get from the medical community, is that this is potentially the 4th wave.
Dr. Keeley also educated us on the meaning of Ramadan, commemorated by Muslims throughout the world during this holy month, and the practice of fasting.
What are your primary suggestions for those who have no limitations during Ramadan?
Yeah, so my suggestion is that in most places in the world, I think, well, let me not say the world, I've just mostly researched the United States. Mostly in the United States, we'll be fasting from 14 to 16 hours. When you go long periods of time in between meals like that, and you haven't had anything to drink, and most importantly, I'm talking about water, the most important thing that we should do in the morning before we start to fast, and the most important thing that we should do when we break the fast, is hydrate. And hydration is different just drinking water. If you open a bottle of water and just drink, that's good for you. But hydration tends to have the water be in the body, in the cells, longer periods of time, which helps with cleansing, which helps with all of the processes of the body that happen when we're giving it rest. And so that's my biggest suggestion. Make sure you're choosing the right foods. As the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, if you're going to eat meat, you probably should stick with fish, which is the easiest meat to digest. And then if we're eating the right type of foods, bean soup, whole milk, good fruits and vegetables that should be organic, those long periods of time in between eating will give us a lot of ability to heal and make the body much better in 30 days.
Deshaun Farad and Eric Muhammad discussed the latest in the ongoing murder trial of Derek Chauvin, charged with the killing of George Floyd.
So from your perspective, is there a correlation between these efforts to defund the police department and this rise in violence in America?
No, it's absolutely not. And I say, I want y'all to watch this movie called Them. And I say, as they said on Them, the white man is the devil, right? It's beloved. It's who he is. It's his nature. And you create a system, right? And then now you have to police that system. And this is how they police that system. So no, to your answer, there is no connection between defunding the police and violence. They are who they are. They committed the violence and they still getting paid.
Eric Muhammad also discussed the death of hip hop music artist DMX and reminded us that his family members said he recently received the COVID vaccine.
Why do you think a country like America, that's considered to be a world power, it leads the world in addictions according to a 2019 study?
You know, the Quran says, when an unrighteous man brings you news, look carefully into it lest you harm a people in ignorance and then be sorry for what you did. And I know the clip started out with saying that our brother died because of a heart attack with drug use. But there was another clip that also came out where a family member said that he took the vaccine, a week earlier. Right. And then so now what happens is we start to run on certain things. But to go to your question, it's because, America is what it is. It is a pharmaceutical company where it's only 2 countries, I can't think of the name right now, where you cannot market directly to the people. But America, as we turn on the television every day, we are seeing them market directly to the people these drugs, because they want to keep the people, especially Black people, you know, in a different state other than reaching our goal and being who God created us to be.
Let us pause for announcements from our sponsors. And when we return, NNV contributor Charles Muhammad speaks on how to eat to live and the best fish to eat. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
The hashtag #BankBlack social media campaign made strides not only in revolutionizing how we bank, but also how we think. The movement inspired thousands of African Americans across the country to transfer or deposit millions of dollars into Black-owned banks. These are banks that will invest in urban communities, employ African Americans, support Black businesses, and inspire Black home ownership. This is a very proud moment for our culture as we are taking small but significant steps towards building Black power through Black wealth.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in his monumental book, How to Eat to Live, advises us that we should not eat catfish and other scavengers of the sea that are bottom feeders. Joining us to discuss this is NNV contributor Charles Muhammad. Welcome to the show. Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak.
Kareem, thank you.
Let's get into this line of questioning about fish, Brother Charles. The first thing I'd like to ask you is, fasting during Ramadan has benefits, but what can we do after Ramadan ends to maintain good health?
Well, in chapter 14 of book number 2 of How to Eat to Live by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which is actually the longest chapter in both of the books, he discusses Ramadan, its purpose, its history, the practice, and he also speaks about moving away from eating meat, right? Lamb, chicken, beef. And interesting enough, he mentions fish in a positive light. He says that fish is good for us. He says fish we can eat. It's raised under a different atmosphere. And then at the end, he says fish is good for us. And as you can see, there are different varieties of vegetarianism. The most popular one right now is veganism, but by a small portion, pescatarianism, which are vegetarians who do eat fish occasionally, they tend to have a longer lifespan and better health outcomes in terms of heart health and brain function. So one of the things we can continue after the holy month of Ramadan is continue to draw away from eating land animals and incorporate more fish into our diet.
Good. You know, we hear a lot about fish oil supplements, and we see them on the shelves at our local grocery stores. Are there any real health benefits to using fish oils?
Well, absolutely. But scientists, they have found out that the brain needs long-chain fatty acids, which are omega-3s, particularly DHA, and EPA. These fatty acids, which are rich in the tissue of fish, help with brain function, sensory, and cellular regeneration all throughout the body. So people try to supplement that artificially through fish oil supplement pills or gel capsules. But a supplement is an add-on to complete the daily requirements, when you could just go straight to the source, which are the proper fish that people have eaten for millennia. So to get it artificially, sometimes it doesn't meet your nutritional needs. So you may overhit the mark or underhit the mark. So to eat fish for its fish oils is essential.
So for those who consume fish or like to eat fish, what are the best fish that we can eat, and where can we find them?
Well, the smaller the fish is the best fish in this case. And the Al-Asr Muhammad stated that eating like river trout or channel trout, whitefish, perch are good to eat. Those are small fish, sometimes 1.5 pounds to 5 pounds. Those are the best fish to eat. But we want to stay away from the larger fish, 10 pounds or larger, sometimes 50 pounds, because those are the scavenger fish, or those are the predator fish that eat other fish, and they are more toxic to be in our diet.
Great. Brother Charles, we often hear about mercury and the levels of mercury that are found in fish. Question is, are all fish full of mercury?
Well, I will have to say yes. Now, we got to give me a little bit of time to answer that question. Mercury is a natural element on the periodic table. So it is in the land, it's in the seas, it's in the water. So even when the mechanisms of man in this industry, they have runoff that goes into the water sources and the streams and the lakes and the rivers. And then you have these tiny creatures called krill, or what are called phytoplankton, that eat these things. And then the fish come along and eat them. So it becomes embedded in their muscular tissue. But that's for the smaller fish. When the larger fish come, they eat the smaller fish, but they have a higher concentration of mercury. But mercury is a natural metal or mineral that is in our planet. So as you can see, if on the chart here, that the smaller fish has the lower level of mercury. So they are an unlimited source of food, but the larger fish, it tends to tell you to limit that intake. So yes, there are traces of mercury in all fish.
Okay, Brother Charles, allow me to push back just a little bit. Talking about natural amounts of mercury in the body, how is any amount of mercury in the body not poisonous?
Well, let's take example 2 natural elements, such as calcium. Calcium is also on the periodic table, as well as mercury. Now, calcium, no one would dispute that it is very healthy for the body, but we can't go and dig with our hands to find traces of calcium in mountains or in reserves, or try to mine it ourselves and then try to eat it. Pure calcium is toxic to the body. So we rely on the calcium to seep into the soil, then into plants, then into animal flesh, and then we will prefer to get the calcium from their milk or eggs. But then there's some of us who try to skip a few steps and try to get to the plants. But the plant version of calcium is not that bioavailable. It's better for us in the form of animal flesh or than milk and eggs. Likely with mercury, but we want less mercury. But mercury is the same type of mineral, right? That can be found in the earth. It seeps into the water. It's in plants. It's in other creatures that eat the plants. So it is naturally occurring in all humans. Now, there was a study in the Seychelles Island. These are 115 tiny islands where on those islands, the inhabitants, they eat 8 times the amount of fish than we do here in the United States, 8 times. And they found that there was no adverse effects to mercury, and they didn't even have significant high levels of mercury, because the body does have a certain use of mercury in it, but it keeps the levels down to a certain rate. So yes, it is a toxic substance in high amounts, but the body does balance that when it is ingesting fish.
All right, Brother Charles, for our pescatarians and our fish eaters, where will fish be in the future of food?
Well, there's a saying that there's plenty of fish in the sea, and we don't really understand how vast the oceans and the seas are that can hold fish. And 3.5 billion people have fish as their source of food, and that seems to is going to double within the next 10 years to 7 billion. So fish is going to remain on the menu for the majority of the planet. So, be happy that this is a food supply that seems to be unlimited if we treat our water sources properly. Fish will be with man for a long time.
All right, let us pause from some announcements from our sponsors. And after we come back, we'll come back with Salih Muhammad for the Al-Asr Report. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Clifton Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. As we renovate and restore the former home of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we have recycled the old copper gutters and downspouts and created a 1-ounce 39mm coin made of 100% pure copper. Each coin is professionally graded and has its own barcode and registration number. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
The Al-Asr Report. Current events with commentary on the time and what must be done. Over the course of the last 3 weeks, our young black and brown men have been murdered at the hands of law enforcement throughout America.
A protest erupted in Brooklyn Center, a suburb of Minneapolis, after a fatal police shooting of a black man during a traffic stop. The Minnesota National Guard deployed, police deploying tear gas to clear the crowds.
Police say officers tried to arrest a driver on an outstanding warrant. When the man tried to get back into his vehicle, that's when police say an officer shot him.
According to the police chief, the officer was attempting to draw her taser, but accidentally pulled her gun and fired it.
Now, regardless of the specifics of how it happens, incidents involving police getting out of control with black suspects are still far too common. And you know that because this shooting in Minnesota isn't the only example of police brutality people are talking about today.
Developing this morning in the state of Virginia, the governor there is calling for an independent investigation after the release of a disturbing police body cam video. It shows officers drawing their guns on an Army lieutenant in uniform and pepper spraying him during a traffic stop that took place last December. That Army lieutenant says the two officers violated his constitutional rights, and now one of those officers has been fired.
What is the solution to this problem? When will enough be enough? The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan spoke on this on July 4th, 2020.
How do they lie so easily? Yes, sir. If you could read the record, the police records of what they say in their reports that they write, they have concocted lies to justify their murder of our brothers and sisters. Why are the police quitting now? You should all quit. Because if your presence there thinks that you're going to come into the black community and do what you've been doing, you better quit. The jump out boys better stay in the white community. Don't come where we live and jump out, because you may never get back in. Real talk now. We can't take it no more. We won't take it anymore.
Joining us to discuss this is all the way from the West Coast, Brother Salih Muhammad. Welcome to the show. Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak.
Wa alaikum salam and Ramadan Kareem. It's my honor and blessing to be with the mighty believers in Allah's cause.
My brother, we're honored to have you. We want to dive right into the questioning for this serious subject matter. My first question for you, my brother, is, in your humble opinion, what do you think is at the root of the increased slaughter of our young men and women, black and brown people, at the hands of law enforcement today?
Yes, so that's an excellent and phenomenal question. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that if we're going to solve a problem, we must get to the root of the problem therein. One of the challenges that we face in regards to our response to the rampant police brutality and mob attacks here in the hills of North America is that we continue to address the problem in a superficial or surface level manner. This addressing of the problem on its surface does not allow us to actually solve the problem. It is like attempting to uproot a tree by cutting off the branches. Every time we seek to solve this problem by passing a new bill of legislation, every time we seek to solve this problem by electing a new white public official, every time we seek to solve this problem by whining or complaining or protesting, what we are finding is that we are only challenging the branch, yet we have not gotten near the root. What is at the root of the problem of police brutality in this country? Well, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the root of this problem is that we are dealing with a people in whom their very nature is to oppose us. In their very nature is the love of steel and warfare and death. In their very nature is the desire to maintain their world by means of preventing our world from rising. So the root of the problem is first and foremost that there is a clash of civilization. There is a clash of natures. There is a clash of doing what's right versus doing what is wrong. And because of this clash, the scriptures teach that there would be the abomination that produces desolation. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan asked his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, what does that mean? He said, that is hatred, brother. We are living in a time where the hatred of man is more rampant and apparent than ever before. Our ancestors that lived through the terrible times that we have lived through, as evil and as wicked as the enemy was then, the enemy is more evil, more wicked, but also more wise. So we see that the first layer of this question regarding the root of the problem is speaking to the nature of our enemy and the nature of hatred that is being forced as we live. Secondly, we have to look at the white man's world is falling. For the last 6,000 years, white supremacy has been the modus operandi of the society. It has been the basis upon which this nation was built. Well, what happened when people who all of their lives found privilege in their whiteness, and all of a sudden, that whiteness doesn't seem to earn them this same privilege? All of a sudden, they're starting to realize that in as much as the black man and the brown man has been oppressed and degraded in this country, that the resources they once had for themselves are no longer available. There's a phenomenal book titled Deaths of Despair that talks about the way lower class and lower income whites are suffering from things that they never saw before. And in fact, you find that the birth rate of white America is in a negative. And we see an increase in suicide in white America. We see an increase in drug use in white America. What is at the root of this? It is men and women struggling to understand what is happening to a world that was built to support them. And now that world is slowly fading away. And so as his world fades away, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad writes that there would be fiery serpents that would emerge among the people. And Minister Farrakhan explains to us that these fiery serpents represent frustrated, angry white people, frustrated with the rapid fall of his civilization. Sure. Well, Master Father Muhammad said that he came to deal justice to both sides. So when we look at the root of the problem, we cannot only analyze the problem from the perspective of what the white man or the white woman or white society or white supremacy has done. If we are to be honest in our analysis, we must do some self-analysis, some self-examination. And if we're to change the problem, then we need to also do some self-correction. Pardon my language.
Yes, sir. Man, thank you.
Thank
you, my brother. Some great balance on your answer. And I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were done with your answer. So we'll go to the next question, but you can continue with that one. So let me ask you this, Brother Salih. Where do you think America stands presently in the terms of race relations? We know we're just coming off of a Trump presidency era that it seems has polarized the country, and but primarily between black people and white people. Where do you think America stands in terms of race relations?
It's an excellent question. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote in 1936 that, quote, history is above all of our studies, most guaranteed and qualified to reward our research. So if we are going to make a conclusion on the status of race relations presently, we cannot make a present tense conclusion that is separate or divorced from the history that has led us to where we are. Frankly, I would say America is as she has always been as it relates to race relations. What race relations? Most black people live in segregated and separated neighborhoods. Most black people live in environments that are overrun by poverty and want and violence and crime and the lack of resources, the lack of jobs, the lack of the quality of health, the lack of access to decent food and hospitals. There is no race relation. The relations that we see today is the same relations that we saw 400 years ago, and that is the relationship between slave master and slave. And it is not merely because the white man has been wrong. It is because we have not awoken or awakened to the call of God to separate and do something for ourselves. When God gives to you a messenger and God gives to you a way, he doesn't merely give you a way, he gives you the way. The way God gave us is to separate. And any alternative to that way, whether it be out of our cowardice, whether it be out of misunderstanding, any alternative we take to the way that God gave us to solve this problem will lead us into a furthering in the condition of that problem. The only way out of this problem is to seek after the solution that Almighty God gave to us. And that is that we must unite. We must separate. We must do something for ourselves. So the conditions are, the race relations are as they have always been.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Looking at this past year, during the pandemic, we know that our brother George Floyd was murdered by Derek Chauvin, and he's on trial right now. Considering the response, not just from Black, brown, and white Americans, but the disapproval from people all over the planet, what happens if Derek Chauvin is acquitted of murder?
I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I know what should happen. The truth of the matter is, if we look at the past history, this isn't the first time that a Black man has been murdered on national and international television only for the officer to get away. And it may not be the last. What we do know is that the way we ensure our slain do not die in vain is that we must take action upon or after these incidents occur. The fact of the matter is, we don't know what will happen, but we know it should happen. We know what the solution is.
Absolutely. You know, in this time period and the day and age of social media and information being at your fingertips and videos popping up everywhere, now people are talking about picking up arms. And they're saying the only way to deal with this type of situation is to pick up a weapon, a gun, and to respond in that way. Do you think that picking up arms is a viable solution to this problem?
Yes, sir. I would start answering this by saying, as a Muslim, it is against our religion to fear anyone but Allah. As a Muslim, we are obligated to fight with those who fight with us. Well, a question must then arise, how must one fight? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that no, weapons are not the answer or the solution to this problem. And once again, if we take upon ourselves a careful study of the history, you will see that we have attempted to take up weapons as a solution to this problem. And our attempts at taking up weapons to the solution as a solution to this problem have been woefully unsuccessful. You cannot outshoot the white man. He gave you the gun. You cannot outmuscle the white man. He provides for you your food. You cannot out-militarize the white man. He has the greatest military on the face of the earth. So if that is not the solution, then now we must consider what then is the solution. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad writes in Message to the Black Man, our unity is the great cannon that we will fire at our enemies. Unity is what we can use to elevate ourselves from our current condition into a better one. Well, what will unite us? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad writes a chapter in Our Savior Has Arrived. Islam will unite us. What do you mean Islam will unite us, Muhammad? Freedom, justice, and equality toward one another is what will unite us. It is the love of one another, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad described, that is like the mortar between bricks, that when we love each other and we can feel each other's pain, it is at that point that our unity will allow us to elevate our people out of this condition and to be firm as a solid wall.
My brother, great answer. Question: if the killing of Black and brown continues unabated, what do you think will be the consequences of the United States of America?
I don't have much to think with, but I can tell you that Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that Almighty God himself has judged America according to the scriptures and found her wanting, meaning that her sins have outweighed her good. And that Almighty God, Allah, loves the Black man and woman of America so much that he would destroy nations over us. So whether they stop today or not, which there is no indication that they would stop, the fact of the matter is all indications, all evidence, all proof suggests very clearly that Babylon the Great, she is fallen. Her wrath has come.
Absolutely. Great answers. Thank you, Brother Salih. Let us pause for some announcements from our sponsors, And we return with Brother Salih. We'll talk about the importance of Black youth having a proper education. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Asiatic Minds, online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness, as well as the greatness of our people, and upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. Call now, 502-219-4848. Greetings from National Network View. This week's Final Call cover story report honors the spirit and the life of the great DMX. Earl Simmons, better known as DMX, has passed away. The acronym DMX stands for Dark Man X. The great rapper, songwriter, and actor will be missed. He was the first artist to debut an album at #1 5 times in a row on the Billboard charts. Overall, DMX has sold over 74 million records worldwide. His music inspired countless fans across the world. He was nothing less than a giant. The FCN Volume Number 28 edition features the middle page article by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. The message delivers words of comfort and care as we mourn the loss of DMX. To read more, subscribe to finalcalldigital.com and tune in to the all-new Final Call Radio. This is the nnvnews.com Final Call cover report.
So we're back with Brother Salih Muhammad once again. We want to talk about education and the importance of independent education for our people, for Black children. Let me ask you this question regarding, we saw a workshop this past Savior's Day, the virtual Savior's Day 2021, focused on a new educational paradigm for the 21st century. So my question to you is, my brother, why is there a need to have a new educational paradigm in the 21st century?
Yes, sir. Well, that's simple, because it's terrible. The current paradigm of education is absolutely terrible. And there is not one iota of evidence anywhere that suggests that education in the United States of America works. It doesn't work. We need not look further than ourselves. Go and ask yourself and look in the mirror and really question whether or not you understood what you read or what you heard today. Go and ask yourself whether or not you learned that's what you needed that can make you a free and independent person. That's a simple question. It's terrible. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us you need not condemn a dirty glass, just put a clean glass next up to it.
So, during the pandemic, many of our children have been home for school, virtual learning. And many of the parents are starting to see that their children cannot read or write. What role must a parent play in the new educational paradigm? And also, as children are being returned to their authority and influence of the parents, is there a need for parental education?
There is a need for parental education, absolutely. One of the things that we learned during this pandemic is that many parents have been so divorced or disassociated from the act of parenting as described in the scriptures of the Quran and Bible, and as given to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan. Many parents have been so divorced from that process that it was a shock that now I have to spend a day with my child uninhibited. Now I must work to make sure my child is knowledgeable. Now I must work to care about my child's mannerisms and behaviors. Now I must work to ensure that my child knows their addition and multiplication. One of the unexpected, in a sense, blessings is that the scriptures talk about how Elijah would turn the hearts of the fathers back to the children. and the hearts of the children back to the fathers. Well, we're living in a time where parents are being
having a little technical difficulty here with our brother. We hope that we can get him back on.
Where we can, we're witnessing a moment and opportunity where we can see the reconnection of parent to child in the divine way that Allah designed for that role to be. Minister Farrakhan teaches this, the last thing I'll say. He taught that the school is the second mother, the other nurturer, the other developer. Well, if the school is to play that role, it is second in that role to mom. Mom also must play that role.
In the traditional public school, Brother Salih, many times professional educators teach subjects through theory without practical hands-on experiences. You being a recipient of the Muhammad University of Islam education and also being an educator at through the Muhammad University of Islam system, how does MUI diversify educators and varying skill sets?
That's a good question. Well, first I would say, part of the problem with this world's education today isn't merely that they're teaching theory without practical app, right? It's that they're teaching theory and often the practical application is not free and independent. You see, it's no sense in teaching us mathematical processes just so that we can go and get a job and maintain another man's world. See, there are independent schools, Black independent schools that might teach you a hands-on mathematic approach, right? But that's woefully insufficient. For if all you can is make to better master the old, then we have failed. Minister Farrakhan said, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, if we teach what they teach in the world, then we'll be teaching it to them in an inferior way. Because when Allah brings to you wisdom and guidance and divine revelation, and you subjugate that divine revelation to another world theory, another world's teaching, another world's style, then you then put your foot in your own mouth. You're forcing yourself to take a lower position. So I'll give an example, right? What I mean by that. In the history of mathematics, one of the things that we find is that mathematics originally developed in a spiritual context. Mathematics was developed by people who are philosophers, who are spiritualists, who are ancient Kemetic priests, right? Even the Greeks, when they began to develop their approach to mathematics that they based off the ancient Egyptians, the Greeks that engaged in mathematics were Plato, Aristotle. These were deep intellectual thinkers who are writing about God. And when we look at some of the original, many of the historical formulas of mathematics, how mathematics was developed and derived, it was developed and derived in a way to help man understand better his relationship to Allah and his relationship to nature. So we have calculus, or we have trigonometry to help us measure the time of prayer, right? This was some of the original formulas that were developed from mathematics, and why much of mathematical thought comes out of the Islamic world, because we needed it in order to perform the acts of Islam. Now, why is that important? Because in the way we teach mathematics today, we teach it in a way that is divorced and devoid of the nature of self, which is God. How is it that Islam is mathematics? That God is all-knowing, wise, and precise, yet mathematics is completely separated and divorced from our acknowledgement and the role and placement of Allah, the supreme being, in that mathematics. Now, I'll close on this point. The Savior gave to us a book that we should study. And in the book, it says, the problem book says, these are problems of the so-called Negro in a mathematical way. There's something to that we should examine. What is the connection between our understanding of mathematics and our ability to master and solve the problems that we face on an everyday basis?
Wow. Great answer. You know, Brother Salih, in the new educational paradigm of the 21st century, there are new emerging technologies that are connecting people around the world. What role will MUI play in developing new technology and mastering the various languages, allowing people of African, Asiatic, and indigenous descent to speak and communicate with each other?
Yes, sir. Well, there's two parts to this. One part is, of course, Islam, as given to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan, is a universal language. It's a way of life, and it has universal applications. Therefore, with some of the advances in modern technology, we can communicate and teach those that are outside of this 3,000 by 2,000 square mile place called the continental United States of America. However, what I would like to offer in addition to that, the Supreme Wisdom teaches us that you will not be successful unless you speak clearly the people's language. It teaches us, it teaches us that there are 26 letters in the language, right? What language? Master Prophet Muhammad was a master of 16 languages. He was fluent in 16 languages and could write 10 of them. But he came and he didn't teach us a language. He came and he did not tell us go and learn Arabic. He didn't tell us go and learn Spanish. Not that we shouldn't learn those things. That's not what I'm saying. But he came and the first language that we were to learn was mastery of the English language. See, sometimes we seek to get to step 3 before step 1 and 2. How can we attempt to teach others a knowledge of themselves if we have not yet first learned a knowledge of ourselves? How can we begin to teach people in their language if we have not yet learned to teach ourselves in our own language? So I say that to say that we have to be honest and measured in our expectations. We have to be honest and measured in our perception, our perspective of what to do and when to do it. Yes, we can do many of these things now, but we can never forget the ones that Master Father Muhammad came to save. And that is the black man and woman right here in the hells of North America.
That's right. One more question, dear brother. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, quote, "If a curriculum does not prepare a student for life itself, then it is a worthless curriculum." Question to you, what positions MUI to prepare youth to solve the critical problems of our time and build a future where freedom, justice, and equality is realized?
The only thing that prepares us to do that is that man. If our curriculum is aligned with the words, thinking, and action of that man, if our curriculum can connect our people to better understand that man, then our curriculum will allow us to help our people into better understanding the science of life itself. Math, science, English, history, these are all good things to learn. But these all mean nothing if we have not the knowledge of ourselves. These all mean nothing if we do not find ourselves connected to Allah, the originator, to his messiahs in our midst. If we skip that and we only offer what everybody else offers, then we're not doing our job. I can't emphasize enough that our independent schools, whether you're doing a tutoring program or if you're running an independent black school or if you're just selling curriculum, I can't emphasize enough that we are disrespecting ourselves if we do not base our work on the greatest writing to ever exist in the history of man and woman. You mean to tell me God came and wrote something that it didn't come to us by a prophet? It didn't come to us from a vision. It didn't come to us through a revelation, but that God could write something personally and offer it to us and that not be the basis of what we teach? No, we must use a knowledge of ourselves as the basis for all that we teach and instruct.
Absolutely. Thank you, dear brother, all the way from the West Coast, Brother Salih Muhammad. Thank you for coming on and joining us today, and look forward to having you back soon. Thank all of you. Thank you for coming, Brother Salih.